Good morning. We are blessed today to have with us Nick Kasemeotis from International Orthodox Christian Charities, IOCC. IOCC, as I hope you all know, is that organization that takes your donation and those of thousands of other Orthodox Christians throughout North America, and through their good work and their wise work, turns that into millions of dollars in support to the needy around the world every year. Nick is a good friend of St. Nicholas and of our community, and he'll be speaking tonight as part of our concert that's happening this afternoon at 4 p.m., which is to benefit IOCC. But Nick will at this point give the homily for the liturgy this morning.
This should be good news because this is all I have. It's good to be back here. I almost consider this home, part of my family. I think it's year 6 since Archdeacon David, who's kind of the seed and the yeast behind our IOCC efforts here. And with Father's blessings, it's good to be back and to just offer a few words today. Father asked me to talk a little bit. Tonight I'll talk a little bit more about IOCC, but he asked me to talk a little bit about the epistle and gospel today. Also, too, we commemorate today the prophet Habakkuk in the Old Testament. It's a wonderful little book, and I encourage you when you go home, it's only 3-4 pages long, but it's very relevant to probably the condition today. Habakkuk lived in a time where there was moral decay among the children of Israel. And it was revealed to him by God that there would be punishment, of course we don't use that word anymore, upon the people of Israel, and it was going to be at the hands of the Babylonians who were going to invade shortly and hold them in captivity. And Habakkuk had a real issue. How can you punish us by the hands of those people who are worse than even us? And I'm not going to give you the end or the dialogue or anything, but go home and read it, and if you have questions, ask Father Michael. St. Paul tells us today that, and reminds us that what we need to be reminded, I need to be reminded of all the time, and that is, my enemy is not the other person. It's not my brother or sister who's offended me endlessly. It's not the person who's done damage to me or whatever. He reminds us our real enemy are the forces of darkness in this world. He says we don't battle against flesh and blood. We're not supposed to battle against each other, but against these forces of darkness. And how do we battle? We put on the armor which God provides, but we have to put it on. And what is that armor he talks about? The weapons are truth, righteousness, the gospel of peace, faith, and the word of God. God provides all these things so that we can stand up against the wiles of the enemy that would seek us, have us fall. But we need to put it on. The gospel today talks about the blind man sitting on the side of the road crying out, God have mercy upon me, Lord have mercy upon me. And this is where I can throw in a little bit about IOCC. There's people every day in Syria, in Jordan, in Lebanon, West Bank, Gaza, in Greece, in Africa, and they're crying out, God have mercy upon us. What's happened to us is devastating. Our lives as we know it have been taken away. Our food we don't have, water we don't have, shelter we don't have, a job we don't have, educational opportunities we don't have. So this hasn't stopped, this crying out for God. It continues to this day. The problem is the Lord isn't here anymore to go by and say, what do you want me to do? But what he has done is he's left his church to ask that question. And we are that body that needs to ask that question. What can I do for you in Syria when your whole life is gone? What can I do for you when you've lost your parents in a terrible, horrible war? And then we need the means to grant it and to do exactly what the Lord did, because this miracle isn't a miracle that just happens once. It can happen again today, and it is happening today. It all has to do with, St. John Chrysostom says, our attitude towards giving and charity and our care and love for our fellow humans, wherever they may be. Lastly, I have, and I usually extend this a little bit, but I have in my hand, and if you want to look at it a little later, it's a gold coin. It's almost 1,000 years old. And on one side of it is the emperor. This is the Emperor Michael Ducas, who was the emperor, I think, 1092 to 1098. Like I said, almost 1,000 years old. And on the other side of the coin is an icon of Christ. If you want to, like I said, if you want to look at it afterwards, I'll be around. But basically, throughout the entire Byzantine Empire, every coin that was minted had an image of the emperor and an image of Christ. And I collect a few things, and I was thinking to myself, for 1,000 years, when people reached in their pocket to pull out money, they saw the Lord. Now, can you imagine if we did that today? Every time we pulled out a dollar bill or a $5 or a $20 or a $100 bill, there's the Lord looking at us? Would that change how we spent that money? Would that change what we did with that money? I believe that money itself, which is kind of a dirty thing to talk about, but I'm a professional fundraiser, I'm supposed to talk about it. Money itself can be sanctified. And we can ask God to sanctify and use our money for godly reasons and godly purposes. And we can continue that miracle, that wonderful miracle that happened on the road to Jericho with that blind man, because people are still crying out, Lord, have mercy upon me. Thanks.